I'm Brendan Gulick. Welcome to Buckeye Breakdown. All right, this might be an interesting place to start, but I think it's worth asking because, especially now, the last few weeks, I realize it was not an offensive exhibition against Penn State and against Nebraska, but the Buckeyes still certainly executed in spots when they needed it. And if you take those 2 weeks where they weren't great out of the red zone out of the equation for a moment, you're talking about basically 2 months worth of eye-popping, unbelievable offensive football. So the expectation that the Buckeyes can do regularly what they did this past weekend, I think that expectation's fairly real. So I know this might not be a super popular topic to start with, but I think it's important to wonder, is Michigan State overrated? Are they truly a top 7 team or top 10 team in the country? Because if they really are, look out, because Ohio State flat out embarrassed them. I know there were some interesting, stat things that probably went in Ohio State's favor pregame. Obviously, the Buckeyes have the best passing offense in the country. Michigan State had the worst passing defense in the country. It didn't take a rocket scientist to figure out, hey, the Buckeyes are going to throw the football on these guys. But if you're the worst pass defense in the country, but you're still ranked 7th nationally, you got to be doing some other things that, make people believe in you. So what do you think with what you've seen from Michigan State? Is that team truly as good as their ranking was?
I think it really shows what everybody talked about going into this game, that without Kenneth Walker, if Michigan State does not have Kenneth Walker, they are a very average football team. It's amazing how prolific a team can be when they have an elite player at a position like quarterback or running back or a linebacker, whatever it may be, one of those impact guys. And that's what you saw on Saturday. You saw the Buckeyes shut down Kenneth Walker. I don't know if he was hurt. I don't know if there was something wrong with him. But for him to only get 7 or 8 carries, the Buckeyes had him bottled up. And there was never that moment where you go, oh, here's Kenneth Walker's Heisman moment where he's going to take off and go. When Kenneth Walker was shut down, Michigan State was shut down. As you watch Michigan State throughout the season, they played a lot of teams close. They won games because why? Mel Tucker does a phenomenal job of teaching toughness. He's bred in the Saban system. He knows how to do the offseason. He knows how to get mentally into these kids' heads. And he's got a little bit of, he's a tough guy. He's from Cleveland, Ohio. He's lived in Michigan. He's a Midwest guy. He gets it. He's a tough guy, and his teams reflect that traditionally. But the difference is when you walk into a gunfight with a solo plastic knife, you only can be so tough. And I think that's what you saw on Saturday. You saw a group of guys that play for Michigan State who are really good football players. They're just not great football players. There's a reason why Michigan State started more players from the state of Ohio than Ohio State did on Saturday.
Yeah.
Why? Those are guys Ohio State looked at and went, okay, we'll beat you. And I think what you're seeing right now is not to knock them as a 7th-ranked team in the country. I think this morning we wake up, I think they're in the 12th or 13th, depending on what poll you're looking at. What you see with Michigan State is not really a detriment to who they are, but really a celebration of who Ohio State is. We've all season said this Georgia team is on this pedestal. Alabama was on that pedestal with them. They fell off a little bit when we looked at, the different, when they lose to Texas A&M, we go, hey, maybe they're human. Okay, so now if these teams are so elite and so far removed from everybody else, what's the next step? And I think that's where you see the Georgias, the Ohio States, and I still keep Alabama in that class, even though they played tough with Arkansas, on Saturday night in Alabama. I mean, Arkansas threw everything at them. They had the fake punt and all those other good things. But I think what you're seeing with this Ohio State team is they are executing on a high level. At the beginning of the season, even present company included, I said, wow, this team's going to be really good next year. And because of the coaching staff, because of these players' grit and their want to, they are becoming that next year team just in enough time where you can still celebrate a Chris Olave, a Garrett Wilson, a Haskell Garrett, all the different players that you could think of right now that are going to probably be leaving at the end of this season. And there's still going to be a good enough core and nucleus that coming back next season, no matter how the season ends, you're looking at the preseason 2022 #1 team in the country right now.
You have to. Yeah.
I mean, there's just, I mean, all right, the graduation of Petit Ferre and Thayer Munford, like, they're going to be able to plug and chug on they're going to be able to work young guys in on the offensive line. CJ Stroud will be back. Trey Van, I mean, and I know I'm trying to jump around, but what I think you're really seeing is not Michigan State being a bad football team. It's just Ohio State is that rare, that elite, that much better than everybody else. Because when you walk onto the field and those coaches look across the field when they're warming up, you do take that peek and you look and you go, whoa, who's got it? And I hate to use the term of the guy we're going to play this week, but who's got it better than us? I mean, like at every single position. Yeah. I mean, there is not a kid, there's not a player when you're going into that game, you're Michigan State, you go in this game, you're like, who wouldn't we take? Offensive line, you take all 5.
Yeah.
Tight end, you're taking Jeremy Ruckert over Hayward 1,000 times. Okay, keep going. Like, I mean, wide receiver, I mean, don't even get me started. You know, really the only argument you would have is at running back, potentially. You know, maybe at running back, maybe Xavier Henderson, this is the nickel safety, and Ronnie Hickman, like at the beginning of the season. But Ronnie Hickman's developed so much. Like, who do you not want? And that's where the question comes in. Like, Ohio State's not going to play anybody that has better talented players until they get to this college football playoff. And that's either an Alabama or a Georgia. That's it. There's no other roster in college football that is more talented than Ohio State's, than potentially those. And that's only on the defensive side of the football. Offensively speaking, the Buckeyes are better than Georgia.
I mean, they're historically good.
I mean, they're one of the greatest offenses that you've ever seen. And granted, the game today is played with the mindset that, and see, we're going to argue, well, you're going to see the best historical offense every week because the game's evolved and defense doesn't evolve with it, and the game's geared towards offense. Say what you want. This offense is fun. It's exciting to watch. I don't know if there's anybody that sits at home and goes, ugh, got to watch him hit another big touchdown pass. You know what I mean? Like, legitimately, this is a great team to watch. They're fun to watch, and they're enjoying it. And it's fun to see them reap the benefits of it.
I agree that Michigan State is probably a top 15 team if you look at the full body of work. I wasn't bothered by their I think they were 12th in the AP poll. You know, to build off your Kenneth Walker thing, and then we're going to talk Buckeyes more specifically here, but I thought Kenneth Walker didn't get the number of touches that he probably needed to get in the game for Michigan State to be competitive because they fell behind so early. I think they just kind of felt like if we run the football or try to run the football, we're never going to catch up. And Ohio State has been far more vulnerable defending the pass than defending the run. And I don't think they love their offensive line. I think Ohio State, even though they didn't come away with a boatload of sacks this weekend, I think Peyton Thorne, who, by the way, played a really tough game. He made some good throws in the first half when things were not great for Michigan State, especially on that second drive. He was playing hard. Ohio State's defensive line just destroyed Michigan State's offensive front. So I just felt like they had to go away from Walker running the football, and you know that's exactly what Ohio State wanted. They basically said we're going to make somebody other than Kenneth Walker beat us, and nobody was capable of that.